two reports are different. First of all, and it's the difference between some high school student doing a shoddy theme paper versus, you know, a college professor doing a theme paper. But the left-wing report named particular organizations that had already committed acts of cyber attacks and that had already put on their websites the fact that they were going to do it again. And then that report went on to identify particular industries that had to be careful because of those cyber attacks. Most of this were the environmental groups and the animal protection groups that they named by specific name. It wasn't like throwing everyone in a profile that said that loved animals, okay? But in the right-wing report, they basically focused on ideologies, people's beliefs, people's political beliefs, which is totally different than someone who is threatening the government or threatening the public safety with imminent danger. And that's the difference here. This report goes after beliefs, nothing else.
You know, Mark raised an interesting point because this takes you right back to the Janet Reno era. And I remember them being so hard on the pro-life movement. Meanwhile, there were real terrorists in this nation setting up for 9/11. And my concern is, and is this a concern of yours, Richard, that why they're focusing in on innocent civilians who just might be patriotic in their beliefs, that we got some real stuff that need to be checked here, and we're going to get the consequence of this could be horrible. What do you think there?
Absolutely. And one of the questions I have is how come they're picking on Americans because they have beliefs that are pro-life and that are shared by, I think the vast majority of Americans would fall into this profile of right-wing extremism that they've developed. But what about all the, we don't now know that there are at least 35 radical Islamic compounds in the United States that are training radical Muslims how to kidnap and kill Americans. We know that we've seen the videos, tapes of that. How come they're not focused on the radical Muslims, but have diverted attention away from the real dangers to people who are pro-life or oppose restrictions on firearms and the other characteristics that they have profiled? I think I think this document is a real threat to the security of the United States because it is diverting attention, not only because it's the intelligence report, but it's diverting attention of all these law enforcement officers that are now going to be changing or chasing pro-lifers and others because someone has made a complaint.
Well, you know
that's a concern I have.
One thing you said that, and I had forgotten about it until you just said it a moment ago when I read this originally, because I've got a copy right here in my hands of the original document from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The most important thing to me on this is the very first line in the report, key findings. The Department of Homeland Security of Intelligence and Analysis has no specific information that domestic right-wing terrorists are currently planning acts of violence, but right-wing extremists may be gathering new recruits by playing on their fears about several emergent issues. This would be like a police department in a given city saying, you know, this guy, Johnny Hunter, we've got nothing to suggest that he's about to do anything violent, but let's crack down on him. So they admit right here at the beginning that they've got nothing to base this on, and then they go on for 9 more pages about how dangerous people who are pro-life, who are in the military, who support gun rights, who are opposed to homosexual marriage, how dangerous these people are. And I don't think the average American understands how incredibly dangerous this document is. Yeah. This document is far more dangerous than any of the people it talks about.
Yeah. Right, and it's important, you've made a good point, and it's important for us to shut it down as quickly as possible, to send a message to the Obama administration and to any would-be others out there that the American people are not going to stand for this, because this is an attack on America, and it's an attack on our Constitution. It's an attack on the right of every American to believe in what they want to believe and to exercise that belief through free speech and free association.
I'm glad you're out there doing this.
Absolutely.
They're trying to make us into Canada. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of the things I know, Mark, I know we were really focused on pro-life, but you've mentioned all these other individuals that are being profiled in this thing. One of the most outrageous things to me is the fact that they've profiled our veteran population.
Absolutely.
Those who are returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. How astounding is it that we are now profiled as potential terrorists? Those men and women who we have placed in harm's way to defend our country and to defend our Constitution, and now when they get back here, they're going to realize that they're in a class of individuals that are suspect as being terrorists. It is just totally outrageous that we've done that.
You know, it's one of these things, Richard, and we're out of time, but let me say before I say this, I appreciate what you guys are doing, because somebody's got to stand up to these people. But, you know, this is another one of these situations where if you had told the American people of this 50 years ago that the U.S. government would be doing this, would be classifying men and women who return from putting their life on the line to protect this country, that they would then be classified as potential terrorists, you would have been locked up. They'd have thought you had lost your mind.
Right, right.
Can you imagine that after World War II, we would have said that about returning veterans from D-Day or whatever, that we're going to watch these people because they could be terrorists.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, because they have training in firearms, they become terrorists. What about all our police officers who have training in firearms? I mean, it becomes such a weird conclusion to arrive at that because veterans have training and combat training, that they are all at once going to come back here and now attack the very government that they have been defending. Now, obviously, there may be some veterans that will be sucked into these extremist groups. Let me tell you what the FBI said. An FBI came out with a report about veterans and white supremacist groups. They said that they had identified 203 individuals with a confirmed or claimed military service who may be involved with an extremist movement. And here's what their conclusion was. This number is minuscule in comparison with the projected U.S. veteran population of 23,816,000. Wow. So 203 individuals that may be veterans who may have been involved compared to the 23 million veterans that are in our country today.
It's an obscenity.
Yes, it is.
It's a complete obscenity. And I'm telling you something, again, we're out of time, but the Obama administration is making Joseph McCarthy look like a lightweight. They're making him look like he had no clue what he was doing.
Right. At least Joseph McCarthy was going after communists who did have as their avowed purpose the overthrow of the United States government.
Yeah, I mean,
not one of these organizations or people or groups that they've mentioned as potential terrorists have that kind of mission.
It's unbelievable. Well, Richard, again, good luck to you, and we thank you for standing up to these people. Something's got to happen with these.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate all the work you are doing in the pro-life cause, too.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm telling you, the war is on. We've said it here the war is on. We are, until the American conservative Christian movement recognizes, because the other side recognizes, that we are in a cultural civil war. That's what we are in right now. And we better wake up and understand this. And this is a perfect example of it. And if this doesn't wake people up, I'm not sure they can be woken up. I'm not sure that it's possible to wake them up.
They're going to wake up in jail.
They're going to wake up in jail in a concentration camp.
It's gonna happen.
Absolutely.